banking? I use the Bank of America mobile banking app. I tap Contact Us and I'm to the right person right away, right from the app, skipping voice prompts. When I want to talk to my lady,
I personally identify as an extrovert. I believe that I'm an extrovert for reasons such as the fact that I prefer to be around people. I prefer to be in a social setting where there are other people around me because I feel much more comfortable rather than being like, say, alone doing something else, because I personally just enjoy the company of other people. I like talking to people and I just like generally socializing.
I think I pretend to be an extrovert, but really I am an introvert. It's just that I'm scared to express my emotions sometimes, so I fake it until I make it in a way.
I would define an extrovert as a person who prefers to be around other people. They prefer to be in places where there's going to be people around them where it's easy for them to feel as if they're within company who they can be comfortable with, because it's like they like to talk, they like to socialize, they just generally like to be around other people. Whereas with an introvert, it's different. It's just they prefer to be alone. Like, they're not necessarily socially inept, but they just prefer to be alone because it gives them this feeling of satisfaction. I don't think that introverts and extroverts are defined by how good they are at socializing, because I know a lot of introverts who are like really good with people. It's just a matter of like, sometimes people want to be alone. That's just literally how they are. And some people want to be with other people. There's no real like defining trait between them, because I feel like a lot of times there's an overlap between extroverts and introverts. But really it's just a matter of like how they spend their time. Like, would they prefer to be around other people, or would they prefer to be doing something on their own?
Of you may be wondering what an introvert and extrovert is, and the few of you who do know what the two are, then you might think that an extrovert is someone who is outgoing, and an introvert is someone who is shy. But according to researchers such as Susan Cain, introversion is way different from being shy. Shy is the fear of social judgment, but introversion is how you respond to stimulation. Extroverts crave stimulation, but some introverts feel more alive and happier when they're in quieter environments. For instance, Introverts are able to socialize with others in groups, but too much people at a time can tire out an introvert. Many researchers on this topic argue that a lot of important institutions focus primarily on catering an extrovert. For instance, schools and workplaces. School is meant to teach children skills that will help them survive in the future. Thus, 21st century learning values participation, speaking up, and working in teams, because that is what is expected in our society. But is that really all students, specifically high school students, should get out of their learning experience? To just only know how to work with others in groups efficiently? Sure, a group contract and learning how to fire someone out of a group is awesome, and I'm not saying project-based learning is terrible. It's just that there's always something you can improve on to make it better. I agree with researchers such as Susan Cain that introversion should not be ignored and that students shouldn't have to pass themselves as extroverts all the time at schools. In the education system, there should be a balance between the two. Specifically, this issue applies to schools in America.
Picture the typical classroom nowadays. When I was going to school, we sat in rows. We sat in rows of desks like this, and we did most of our work pretty autonomously. But nowadays, your typical classroom has pods of desks of 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 kids all facing each other. And kids are working in countless group assignments, even in subjects like math and creative writing, which you would think would depend on solo flights of thought. Kids are now expected to act as committee members. And for the kids who prefer to go off by themselves or just to work alone, those kids are seen as outliers often, or worse, as problem cases.
I do believe that, especially with like our type of projects, because we have speeches and presentations, and those are really good for people that like being out there. Even some extroverts have trouble talking up in front of the class, but it still really only caters to extroverts, and it's hard for introverts to do those kinds of things because they'd rather just be sitting and doing individual work quietly and turning that into the teacher.
Maybe not only, but it's pretty obvious that our school favors more towards extroverts than introverts, because extroverts are usually people who are able to stick out from the crowd and express themselves more than introverts.
So in the context of a 21st century learning environment, I wouldn't say much more difficult time, but I feel like introvert types of students definitely is in a disadvantaged environment, because the 21st century learning environment focusing on collaborative learning and all the that kind of skills. So I would say being in that kind of environment definitely is a little bit disadvantage for introvert students. And for extrovert students, I feel that they have a place and also are encouraged to show what they are good at. So in terms of that, I feel like introvert students have a little slightly, I won't say much more difficult time, but slightly difficult time in learning in that kind of environment.
Well, personally, I prefer when we do individual projects because I think I get to express myself the way I want to, but we don't, usually there's that one person in the group who in a way does everything, and even though you have ideas, that person won't let you express your ideas because that person already has their ideas and knows what they want to do.
And it's our loss for sure, but it is also our colleagues' loss and our community's loss. And at the risk of sounding grandiose, it is the world's loss, because when it comes to creativity and to leadership, we need introverts doing what they do best. 1/3 to 1/2 of the population are introverts.
In my experience with the public education system, it seems that some educators don't realize the importance of a student's true personality, which could be either an introvert or extrovert, as if they expect everyone to become just an extrovert. By constantly making us do group projects, students are not able to embrace their true self. The 21st century education system makes it seem like they're only focusing on students being more extroverted. The more they force students to be an extroverted student, the bigger the population there is going to be of extroverted people in society. And it's better to have a balance between the two.
I feel like in China there are actually more introvert students than here in the United States, and the Chinese learning environment is very different with the United States or American learning environments, which they focus less on the 21st century skill, the collaborative learning. In China, students are still like a very teacher-centered learn things in the teacher-centered classroom. So I feel like introvert students are viewed similar to extrovert students. They are not necessarily in a disadvantaged position.
In Asia, an introvert is seen as an independent and thoughtful person, while in the West, they are seen in society as odd and an outsider. There's obviously a difference in Western society and Asian society. Our education system should value the importance of being an introvert. A short-term effect on introversion and extroversion is that a teenager thinks being social, aka being more like an extrovert, is better, and it seems like a bigger priority in a teen's life. A long-term effect would be introversion and extroversion varies when becoming an adult. Doing stuff by yourself can be beneficial, and a good trait to have.
I know I gave it months ago. I know you're trying to forget. I know I gave it months ago. I know you're trying to forget. I know I gave it.